Alright, so in this video, I'm going to walk through the steps in replacing the alternator and removing the battery and some other things on a 2004 Ford Explorer. It has a 4.0 liter V6. And this could be the same for other Ford products that have the same engine and the same mounting. So it may work for like a Ford Ranger or other vehicles that have the 4.0 liter. The tools that were required in this job were basically a 3/8 inch long socket wrench, and maybe you should have two because I like to leave one. I'll explain that later. Um, Half-inch deep well socket, a 3/8 inch socket extension is very helpful, and an 8mm socket and a flathead screwdriver. So part of the problem that I was having, which caused the replacement of the alternator, was on my dashboard, right over here on the right hand side, this battery light came on. And it was kind of indicating that the battery is not charging. And that could be one of two different things, really. But before I get into that, I guess some of the symptoms could be your lights are not working. In my case, the signal lights quit working. Um, but it was kind of intermittent for me. It wasn't all the time. It would happen, once an hour or something. It was kind of a strange thing. But basically, there are two major parts that are relevant when you're troubleshooting the charging system. That's the battery and the alternator. However, before you replace any of those, check the wiring. Check the wiring out that's attached to the battery and the wiring that's attached to the alternator, which I'll show you here in a second. Because, I mean, it could just be a simple problem. So the battery, check the cables. I mean, as much as you like to think, these things can get loose, right? And if you can move these with your hand, honestly, they're not tight. That could be a simple problem of wiring that's causing your charging light to come on kind of intermittently. Okay, so check the battery cables. And the next thing is, check the cables that are attached to the alternator. This is the alternator, in case you're not 100% sure what part that is. In this vehicle, it's mounted on the top of the engine toward the front on the left-hand side. This right here, I hope you can see my mouse, but this right here is the on the left-hand side is the air filter, and the alternator is kind of right next to that. So check these connections where I have the yellow arrows, just to make sure they're tight, not jiggling around or not quite clipped in. So what I found out during this process is you can actually have the battery and the alternator tested. I mean, I knew you could have the battery tested. I didn't know you could have the alternator tested. And in my case, kudos to Advance Auto Parts. I'm not, advertising those guys, but they do test both. So I took the battery out and I took it out to the Advance Auto, and they performed a test on it, and it tested good. And you can actually, it can be in your car when you do that test. So if you can drive it out there, that's cool. Do that too. So they tested the battery, and the battery was fine. But if the battery is bad, that could be your problem too. It doesn't always point to the alternator. It could just be a bad battery. But what I did find out while I was there is that that same parts store can bench test the alternator. So you can remove the alternator, carry it out to Advance, and I'm assuming other ones do it too, and they can put it on the bench and test it. I will add though that while testing mine, it tested good, but my problem was sort of intermittent, almost like maybe the alternator was on its way to failing. But after replacing it, my problem went away. So even though it did test good at their bench. So to remove the battery, to take it for testing, or just to remove a battery in general, you're going to loosen these nuts here on the battery post that are holding the cables to the battery post. And for me, these were 1/2 inch nuts, so you just loosen those up and kind of move the cables back and forth until the cable comes off. And then there's a plastic housing that covers the battery here. As you can see, it's on top of the battery. You take that off. Then on the left-hand side of this picture, where this little arrow is going to, there's an 8mm socket that removes the retainer. It's basically a plastic piece that holds the battery into place. And the reason I have this slide here is if you are not comfortable around tools, if you're not comfortable doing this step, then I don't recommend you perform the rest of this project. It's, You have to know your way around tools, and you have to know your way around the vehicle a little to perform the project. So, all kidding aside, if you can't do this part, don't do the rest of it. So if you're replacing the alternator, first of all, unhook the battery cables, just like we just said in the previous step, because you're dealing with the electrical and there's no sense in having that hooked up. And I'm going to talk about the hardest part first. And this is the alternator that you see here on the left-hand side. Actually, this is the picture of the replacement one I put in. And you can see that it's belt-driven. So here's the belt. It comes across the front of the alternator. And right below the alternator is the tension pulley. So what you got to do to take this alternator out is you have to take the belt off. And this is one long belt that snakes all the way around the front of the engine on several different parts and components. And there's a tension pulley right below the alternator that really keeps that belt on or applies all the tension to the belt. And you have to pull that thing back and remove the tension. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can do it. This is a view of the tension pulley looking down from the top. You can see right here's the fan that's on the front of the engine. And in this particular picture, I already have the belt off, I believe, of this tension pulley. But what you're doing is you're taking this 3/8 inch socket, a long one, or if you have a tension pulley wrench, I didn't have one of those, but basically you can use a 3/8 inch socket, or 3/8 inch socket wrench. You don't need the socket, it's just the wrench itself. And I did this from the bottom because I just thought it was easier and there's much more room to deal with. So basically you put that socket wrench into this square hole right here. I'll show you another picture in a second. And you're going to pull from the top, it's left to right. So you pull and you're going to remove the belt from the tension pulley. So let me show you what it looks like from the bottom. This is it from the bottom. This is where I did it from. So here's the little hole that your 3/8 inch socket wrench goes, right here right here. And once you put that in there, you're going to pull to from the bottom, obviously, it's to the left. And it's pretty stout, so that's why I said you might want a long socket wrench. So you pull it to the left, and you'll see what happens. Basically, it loosens all the tension on the belt, and you want to take the belt off of this pulley. So you're going to take the belt off of the tensioner pulley, and then just let the pulley go back to the right. I recommend leaving the 3/8 inch socket wrench on there because it sets up against all these things and it's easier to get to when you have to pull the tensioner pulley back to put the belt back on. So once you got the belt off, it's pretty easy after that. So, oh, and by the way, you probably want to take a picture of that belt before you take it off just to make sure you know how to get it back on in case the label's missing on the front of your car. First thing you do is there's a 1/2 inch bolt that you need to take off. This is the alternator right here. So you can remove this 1/2 inch bolt. It's a pretty long bolt, so it'll take a few turns. Remove that bolt. Also on this bolt, by the way, is a little clip that holds your wiring in place, and don't forget to put that back on when you're done. The second part is, this one's easier. There's only 3 bolts that hold this thing on, by the way. This one's easier if you pull back the air filter cover. So here's your air filter on the left-hand side. Just disconnect that and pull it back a little so you can get better access to these bolts. So here's the second bolt here. It's also a 1/2 inch. Just remove that one. I did put an extension on mine just to make it easier. This is the third bolt. This one you have to have a deep well socket. It's a little bit of a different bolt. I'm not sure why, and maybe it's not like that on all of them, but it was for mine. You'll need a 1/2 inch deep well socket there, possibly. The next piece is to remove, you pull back this rubber piece. These are electrical connections. You remove this connection here with an 8mm socket. So there's an 8mm bolt right there. You remove that. At this point, I'd pull the alternator out because you can, once you have all these bolts out, you can just pull it out a little. So pull it out away, and then remove these plastic ones. You can use like a flathead screwdriver to pull these out. But be wary that the plastic on some of these can be a little brittle because I guess it's been in the heat in the engine air compartment and heat has made them a little brittle. But you just be gentle, right? When you're pulling the clips back, I think I broke one of mine, and it doesn't make me happy. So anyway, yeah. So remove these clips, and you should be good. You should be able to You should be able to remove the alternator. At this point, oh, this is just a screwdriver. I don't know why I have this in here. Honestly, I should have taken that out. At this point, you can take the alternator out to a shop, have it bench tested, have them take a look at it. If you end up replacing it, you get somewhere around, I think, $27, $28 for a core fee. You turn your old one in, they give you a new one. And basically, the installation is just the reverse of the instructions you just followed for removal. So basically, you're just putting it back in your 3 bolts, your electrical connections. Don't forget to put your clip back on that holds your wiring. You can see I didn't do it here. I had to go back later and put it back on. Hook your battery back up, and then put your belt back on. Putting the belt back on is the hardest part. I'm here to tell you. If there's someone there that can help you do it, it's great. But if you have a long 3/8 socket wrench, it makes it so much easier because it's easier to pull on the tension the tension pulley than a standard size. So I do recommend that. And that's pretty much all there is to it, replacing an alternator. So you can save yourself quite a few bucks doing this. And once again, this is for an 2004 Ford Explorer. And like it may be common for most of Ford products. I'm not 100% sure. It's the only one I have. But I hope this helps you. And if you have any questions about this, leave them in the comments, and I'll do what I can. Thanks, guys.